Okay, I'm back from my break, and the next thing we want to do is we want to work on that floating action button, right? So let's go back to this image here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a screenshot of this in both states. So the open state, okay, good, and then just the closed state. There, like that. And then I'm going to quit Chrome. Chrome, oh man, that application actually takes up a lot of memory. So I'm freeing up some memory here because I have my recording software going at the same time, which I use Camtasia, by the way. Okay, so let's take a look here. All right, we have our image. We'll use this as a reference, and we're basically just going to use like that color and kind of get an idea what the size is. Okay, so let's create a button. And it'll just be, see what it's doing here? It wants to put it inside of the table view. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to put it in the under the view, and then I'm going to drag it over here, and it'll probably want to put it in there again, but if I just hold down Command, it'll keep it on top. Okay, now what we need is we need an image for that button. And let's see, let's make the button, I don't know, maybe like 50 by 50. Think that'll look good? Maybe like a little bit bigger, right? That button is, yeah, it's hard to say. Let's go 55 by 55. Okay, so that'll be our button here. Let's get on that border, that margin, that margin. It's hard to get it exact. You know, another thing I can do too, I'm having trouble because I'm not using my mouse. So if I use the arrow keys, and you see how that other margin line lit up there? So you can use the arrow keys to kind of position things and make sure it gets right where you want it to be. Now for constraints, I'm going to use auto resizing again. I use auto resizing almost exclusively now, but sometimes you do need to use constraints. You know, there's some things that auto resizing won't handle. So I always start with auto resizing first and then use constraints if I need to. So that's good. So what this will do, you can see from the preview here, it'll just keep it in the corner. So no matter what size the phone is, the floating action button will always stay in the corner. All right, so what I need to do now is I need to create that plus, and I'm going to use an image for that. So let's create that real quick. I'm going to go back to Sketch. And right now we have this file here. So what I do for Sketch is, let me save it here, and I usually call it the same name as my project, and it was called Secret Project. It should be in here somewhere. I need to, learn my my alphabet here. Wow, oh, there it is. You see, I think I'm partly nervous because I'm doing this live too. And what I do, so I just name it the same thing as my my project here, Secret Project. And then this way the assets file stays with the project. And normally what I'll do is on my website, on patreon.com, I have a blog, and I'll post the project files and all the asset files for my patrons. So I like to keep everything together. So here what I can do also is I'm going to create another artboard, and I keep all my assets on one file, which is kind of nice. I'm not going to create separate files for each asset. And see this right here, it shows you the size. We want 55 by 55, right? And it's kind of hard to get it like right on there, especially with my finger without a mouse. I actually did it. But what I was going to say is I can come over here and what I do is get really close, and then I just manually change it to, whatever pixels I want. So we got 55 by 55. And for this, doing a cross is really easy. You just make a line. So I hit L to make a line. And let me take another look here. So it looks like the line starts probably, I don't know, like 20 down. You know what? Here, to make it easier, let's actually just make this 60 by 60. Then that way we'll center. How long is this line? Yeah, let's make this 30. There we go. And then what I'm going to do is if you click on these buttons, it just aligns it, it centers it. So I'm going to copy and paste that. So now I have 2 lines. You can see that over here, 2 lines. And then I'm going to just rotate it. Can I not? That won't do anything. Oh, can I not? Oh, the lines don't let you rotate. All right, no big deal. That's right. We'll just move this here. And what was it? It was just 30, right? And then let's align, center that both ways. Okay, good. So there's my floating action button. Now notice I'm not going to make the background. I'm not going to make the round circle and add color to it because I can do those things in Xcode. And I'd rather do them in Xcode because then I won't have to come back here into Sketch and change the color a little bit, you know, and tweak things. I can just use it just like this and do the rest in Xcode. It just gives me more flexibility. So I'm just going to save this. And for this, the default name is artboard here. So I'm going to change this to Fab, floating action button. And let's export that. And we're going to use the 2x and the 3x. And let's export it to the desktop so we can just easily drag it into our project. Now notice another thing too is I'm not saving these assets when I export them. Yeah, let's just move this over. I'm not saving these assets right here, these pictures, because it'll bloat your drive. And when you add it to your assets folder, you already have a copy there. And I'll show you what I mean. So let's go here and let's grab these 2 images, drag them in here. And then let's go into, oh, I already had it there. Let's go into that drive here. Not that one. Programming. Secret. Whoops. Secret project. So if you come in here and look at your project, you can actually see your assets right here. So if you ever need them, you don't, that's why I'm not going to save them as part of my project assets because they're already here in the cassettes folder. Cassettes. Xcode assets folder. Another thing you could have done, I could have just right-clicked on here. I just remembered this. You could have right-clicked on here and reveal, where is it? Show in Finder. So that would have been easier. All right. So we have everything we need. Now another important step that I need to take is, remember, I want to be able to change this color. It's going to be white. So I need to change some of the settings here and change it to render as template image. That will allow me to use the tint color to change this image information. And the tint will change all color information, no matter what color it is. So notice it'll change all color information, but it won't change, and it won't even touch or affect anything that's transparent. And we're going to use that in our button. It's already selected, our button's selected. So let's take out the text, and let's go to image, and let's add the floating action button. Okay, good. And we want the tint color to be white. Now it doesn't show up here. Oh, that's another thing I need to do. But when we run it, you'll notice it'll be white. So one of the things I need to do too is I have this button X, UI button X, and that's the designable I'm going to be using. So if I come here, I see UI button X. Oh, and you know what we want to do? We want to change this button to 60 by 60. Oh, it is. I thought I meant. Oh, that's weird. Okay, never mind. I'm losing it. See, guys, this is how it is. This is how it work live. Okay, good. 60 by 60. That's exactly what we wanted. So I must have forgot when we went to Sketch. I made it 55 by 55. All right, this is perfect. We get everything the way we want it. And now what we want to do is, because it's 60 by 60, we want to give it a 30 corner radius to make it round. And you can't really tell the difference here. But if we give it a border, wait, does the floating action button have a border? No, it doesn't. But usually floating action buttons have like a slight shadow. Maybe it's hard to see because it's darker background. But let's do that. Let's give it a shadow too. So, okay. So we don't have border color, border width. But we want to give it a shadow. Just change the opacity to 1. And that should be, we'll just give it a 1. Shadow color, we'll just make it like a dark gray. Okay, that should work. Yeah, you notice here that the whole thing turned gray because it fills in. When you use a shadow, you can't add a shadow to and also use a corner radius, because the corner radius clips will clip the shadow. So what this does, you can look at this in your own time, is it adds another layer or another view behind the button with a shadow radius, and that's actually what we're saying. So when I give it a color, it's coloring that view behind it. So what we want to do is we want to add our own background color. That's just a color I had that was available. But let's do this. Let's go in here, and I'm going to use this eyedropper tool, and let's get this up here. I need to reposition this so I can click it at the same time. There, we'll just grab that color. Pow. All right, let's see what that looks like so far. Yeah, it doesn't quite look the same, right? It's the plus seems to be smaller, so I kind of messed that up. And unfortunately, this is the hard part about programming this, is you get a lot of like back and forth. So let me make that smaller. It looks like it's about a third, right? So if this is 60, that really should be 20, not 30. All right, so let's do that. Let's go back here. Let's make this line 20. And we're going to make this line 20. Okay, now we want to center those. And I'm not too familiar with material design, but I wonder if you look at the documents, I've looked through them, maybe like when they first came out, I looked through the documents, which was what, 4 years ago. So I wonder if in that documentation it actually tells you what the dimensions should be. Okay, I'm just going to export again, and it's going to the desktop. It overwrites it automatically. That was a setting that I set. So let's replace that in our Xcode assets folder. Delete that, and we'll add these pictures back in, these images back in, and we want to change this to template again. Okay, and let's run that and see how it looks. All right, that's way better. That looks like it's about the right size. Yeah, let's stick with that. One thing that I might experiment with, but I'm not going to do it right now because it'll just take up too much time, is I might experiment with a 1 point thicker line to see how that looks. Because this is a lower resolution, so it's hard to tell. But we'll stick with this for now. So right now, this button, it doesn't do anything, right? But if you notice, when we were looking at the image, the original, this changes to an X. So it's kind of cool. Like when you click it, it expands the menu, and then it looks like an X. So X, of course, means like close, right? So you click it again, and it goes back. So let's handle that functionality. And what I might do is, this is really what I would probably do, is I would subclass that functionality. So I'd create my own button class for that behavior. So why don't we do that? Let's create another file. And no, actually, hold on. I'm not going to add it to Designable because it's not part of that group. I'm going to just add it here. It's going to be a Cocoa Touch class, and we are going to create a subclass of button, right? And what should we call this? Well, let's call it floating action button. Okay. Appropriate name, click create. Okay, and we'll just delete this. And then, so a lot of the functionality or behavior that I want is in the UI button X class, right? So I'm going to inherit from that. But, you know what I need to do? Yeah, okay, I need to reference this for a minute. the thing that I need to handle is right here, begin tracking and end tracking. If you guys don't know what that means, that is basically, think of this as, you know how you have like button events like touch up inside, touch down inside, things like that. Well, think of this as like your touch down inside and this is your touch up inside. So this is clicking down and this is clicking up, the beginning of the tap and the end of the tap. So what I need to do is I need to override those again. And let me just, I'm just going to cheat here. I'm going to do this. And let's go to our floating action button. Let's paste that in. Oops. There we go. Okay. And then what we need to do is this functionality isn't going to be in there. So let's take that out. But we want it to still be called, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to call super begin tracking, and we'll just pass in the same arguments here with event like that. And we'll need to do the same thing here. We still want that functionality that I had in there. And that functionality, basically what you saw in there, what's it complaining about? I don't know what that means. Result of call to begin tracking is unused. Because it returns a variable here. So I think like it just wants us to say like, I don't know, x equals something like that. So maybe a better way is to just do this. Let's try this. I've never done this before. I'm doing this live. I haven't tested it. So I'm not quite sure on what's going to happen here. You guys are going to learn with me. Okay, we'll just do that. And then we want to have our own functionality. Oh, so what I was saying was what this functionality does, I noticed that when you click a button and it just has an icon in it, see, normally like buttons flash when you tap them on the phone. They do this flashing thing. But if it's just an icon and it's a big button with like it's a round button, it hardly looks like you're tapping it, because if your finger's over the icon in the center, then you don't see the button really do a flash thing. So that's all I'm adding here. Is it's kind of like a flash. I'm animating the alpha property. So it becomes less visible, and then at the end it goes back and becomes visible again. So that's all I'm doing, just kind of simulating a flash. Okay, so back here, what we want to do is we also want to animate the rotation of this button. And you do that with a transform. So we're going to I'm going to access the transform of the button. And notice, I don't have to say like button.transform, because I'm already in a button, in a UI button. So I could say self.transform, but normally, I don't know. I only use self if I really have to. Okay, transform equals CG find transform. And let's rotate this right here. Okay, now the rotation angle is in radians, and I suck at radians. I mean, I have no idea what radians, but I do know degrees, and we want it to turn 45 degrees, right? So normally what I do is every time I do this, I do the formula right in here. So it's going to be 45 degrees, and then what you have to do is you have to take pi, 3.14, right? And then divide that by 180. And that is how you convert your degrees to radians. Okay, so we apply that transform. So when you click it, it goes back. Okay, so when you click it, it transforms. And then we need to alternate this, right? So, and we want to animate it. So what I'm going to do is I need an if statement, and if the transform equals .identity. Identity is the default value. That's how the transform starts, with just equal to identity. It means there's no transforms applied to it. There's no rotation, there's no scaling, there's no repositioning of it. So if it equals the default value, I want to transform it. Else, I want to switch it back, which is transform equals dot identity, like that. Okay, good. And then I want to animate this. So let's do UI view.animate. We'll pick the simplest one. I think that'll do. And we'll just do the 0.3 seconds. That's kind of like a default that Apple uses. So I use it too to start out with. Oh, come on. All right, let's just cut that and paste that in there. And I like to keep it clean, so let's format it. Oh, what I do here to format it. All right, so because I'm before I show you that, let's fix this here. Now, you know what it's complaining about? It's because there's no self in there. Remember, I tell you, I only use it if I really need to. So now I really need to, so let's get that in there. Okay. And so now I want to format it, like the indent isn't correct. So what I do is I do a Command A to select everything. And then you have a command, and I think by default it's like Control I or Option I, something like that. But I remapped it in the Xcode preferences to be Command I. So I could just do Command A, Command I, and it indents everything. So that's what I do in my videos. I like to keep things indented, keep it clean. All right, let's test this. Let's see if that works. You know, I guess I really don't need the end tracking, so I'll have to delete that after. Actually, I should delete that now, because if I leave it like this, it's going to cancel out the clicking. You know, on the end tracking, it restores the alpha. So if I left that in there, it wouldn't restore the alpha because there's no code in there. All right, see if this works. Click it once. Nothing's happening. See how it flashes? That's what I'm talking about. So that's what I coded. But you know why it's not working? Because we didn't change this button to floating action button. Okay, so let's do that. See, you guys, this is normal. I'm not perfect when I code, and when you see my videos, I usually edit all this stuff out. But I'm going to leave this in because I want you guys to see that this is how I really code. Okay, so let's change this to floating action button. And let's run that and try it now. Okay. Yeah, there we go. Awesome. That looks cool. I think he had it. I don't know. Now let's leave it like that. I was going to speed it up a little bit, but let's stick with that. Now, one other thing that's bugging me too is, you see this, how these like these little lines in here? Oh, that bugs me, man. I wish the default behavior was not to have those little lines. And you know how to fix it? To fix it it's really stupid. You take a UI view and you add it in there. And let's go to this and make it clear color. And to be honest, I have no idea why this fixes it. I just make it 0. I have no idea why that fixes it. I saw it on Stack Overflow. Someone suggested it, and I've used it ever since. Look at that. No more lines. So I have no idea why that works. Okay, so let's take another break. We got the button. We created our custom button. We gave it a rotation, and everything is looking so far so good. So the next thing we're going to do after what I'm going to do is I'm going to divide these videos up into segments so you can just watch one segment at a time, and then I'm going to release them all as a playlist on YouTube. All right, so let's take a break, and I'm going to continue on with this floating action button.